I didn't bother doing one of these videos for Chapter 102 because I didn't have enough to say about it, so we'll combine my thoughts about 102 with today's video, where we discuss Chapter 103, the most recent chapter of Sono Biscuit, probably better known as My Dress-Up Darling. Welcome once again to Musings by Danon. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Danon. I'm currently reading over 600 manga and light novels, and my two favorite genres are fantasy and romance. So on this channel, we talk a lot about both of those genres. But we tend to look more into story structure and tropes rather than how cool the fight scenes are, or how great the animation or artwork is. Also, and I know it's annoying to keep hearing this, but statistically, if I don't ask you to like and subscribe, the video gets fewer subscribers. Let's get you caught up with Chapter 102 so we can dive into 103. The biggest event in this chapter is where Marin's dad finally meets the Gojos, both Wakana and Grandpa. Marin is still freaking out about Gojo's behavior and facial expressions after the end of Comiket. She doesn't know how to approach him. Why did his face look like that? What's going on in his head? Marin has misread the situation with Gojo over and over again and has been spiraling ever since the beginning of the Coffin arc. Her courage is gone when it comes to him. She may be a confident, outgoing, beautiful Gyaru, but when it comes to love, she is still a lost child. Remember, she's 15. None of you were suave when you were 15. You were cringe, in more ways than one. So why is everyone holding Marin to a higher standard? And she's the outgoing one. What makes you think Gojo could possibly have any riz? What am I talking about? Think back to Chapter 74. Gojo is able to stay late at Marin's house because his grandfather isn't home. He's staying with family for the night. Marin jokingly asks him to spend the night, to which Gojo responds in his typical fashion, and they start playing Coffin Game. There are a bunch of cute nuns. This game will be adorable, right? Yeah, it's a horror game. And a psychological horror at that. They play for several hours and then notice how late it is. Of course, the trains aren't running, so Gojo is forced to stay. However, it would be inappropriate to sleep at a girl's house, especially since her father isn't home. Gojo feels incredibly guilty about it. If Marin's dad were home and he gave permission, it would be fine. But two teenagers in an apartment together? Alone? All night? No, that's bad. If only there was a solution. Wait, what if I don't sleep? What if I stay up all night? That's perfect. Then I wouldn't be sleeping over. Marin is excited to get to spend more time with Gojo. She buys ingredients so she can make breakfast for the two of them. Wait a minute, we're shopping together. Isn't this like we're living together already? Of course, her brain short-circuits when she sees Gojo buying energy drinks. There is a belief, especially in Japan, that energy drinks will help you perform better in bed. Whether that's true or not, I'll leave up to your own judgment, but Google says it's fake. But products are still marketed in Japan as having certain benefits. So when Marin finds Gojo in the energy drink section, she starts to freak out. She freaks out even further when Gojo explains that he doesn't plan on sleeping tonight. Of course, we know that Gojo is innocent, maybe too innocent, but Marin completely misinterprets this statement. After all, she's a weeb. So when she hears a line straight out of a Dojin or an eroge, of course she thinks that Gojo is planning on having his way with her. But it's too soon. They haven't even started dating yet. And, as I stated earlier, she has no experience. Of course, this all turns out to be a misunderstanding, and Marin is totally embarrassed by both her thoughts and actions. She takes mental damage just remembering how cringy she was. And at the same time, her confidence is shattered. Gojo didn't hit on her. He didn't make a move, didn't try to kiss her, didn't do anything to her. As has been discussed on this channel, Gojo is already in love with Marin. And we know that Marin has been in love with Gojo for a while now. The whole premise of the manga is that of a doll falling in love with her dressmaker. But how does this tie in with Chapter 103? Don't worry, we'll get there, gentle viewer. Chapter 102 deals with the aftermath of Winter Comiket. Marin's dad is freaking out about Marin's popularity and how many people are praising her costume. but he's even more freaked out about the possibility of her taking advantage of Gojo. I love this chapter as we get to see exactly where Marin gets her personality from. Her dad is loud and boisterous, just like Marin. Of course, she's embarrassed when he does it, but what 15-year-old girl doesn't roll her eyes at her parents? Marin is happy that Gojo doesn't look as depressed as he did the day before, but she wishes her dad would just shut up. After all, it wasn't just some dress that Gojo-kun made for her, it was a Shizuku-tan costume. Literally, I can't even with you, Dad. And on top of making this boy, okay, maybe he's a good kid, sew you all these clothes, they even fed you? What do you mean they cooked for you? Marin, when I told you I wanted you to learn how to cook, it wasn't because you're a girl, it's because I want you to be an adult that can take care of themselves. Marin responds that of course she can cook. See? See? At this point, Masami, Marin's father, starts to understand. He looks in horror at the food Marin has been eating at home. He sees that same look reflected on the face of the Gojos. He bows to them and thanks them for their hospitality. Of course, this leads to another scene of him freaking out about how jealous he is of the food that Marin's been eating. And once again, Marin is annoyed at her father. After they leave, Masami invites Gojo to go with them to Hatsumode, the first shrine visit of the year. But Gojo politely declines. His cousin's coming over and they're all planning on going later that day. Masami nods, looks at Marin, remembers the photo on the back of Marin's phone, turns back to Wakana, and asks him to please take good care of Marin. Gojo says that yes, he will. Clarifying further, he goes on to say that he'll take care of Kitagawa's nutritional needs. Of course, that wasn't what Masami was referring to, but okay, sure. All in all, a cute chapter, and it was nice to see Marin's dad make an appearance. It was even nicer to see that he approved of Wakana, and basically gave him his blessing to marry his daughter, even if Wakana completely misunderstood. And then, we had a 2-month break in between chapters. We had to wait with bated breath until finally, last week, we got chapter 103. And it was worth the wait. Gojo asks Marin out on a date. Sort of. Marin is, once again, very nervous about misreading the situation. She is under the impression that her relationship with Gojo is something fragile. Maybe she's pushed Gojo too hard. Maybe she's the reason he was so depressed at the end of Comic Cat. Is it all her fault? There's a single page that hits like a truck in this part. I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to let you read it. The thing that gets me is that we don't know who's saying that, and I don't think we're meant to. Yes, the previous page was from Marin's perspective, but that doesn't mean anything. Personally, I think it could be either, but it's probably Marin. After all, she's been freaking out for months. Remember, we're now in January, and Gojo started working on the Mandate of Heaven cosplay all the way back in November. She also has inflicted a ton of psychic damage on herself, but some of it is caused by Gojo as well. Think about all they've been through. Not once, not twice, but 3 times Gojo vehemently denied being in a romantic relationship with Marin. He emphatically told all her friends that they weren't going out, told her boss that they weren't going out, and told Juju-chan they weren't going out. And when he spent the night at her place, she basically worked herself up into a panic attack, despite Gojo not doing anything improper. Right now, Marin is a mess, and she's having trouble communicating with Gojo. Not just about her feelings or trying to ask him about his feelings, but because she's an emotional wreck. It's how she was able to nail Haniel. Remember back in chapter 101, one of the editors discussing the Haniel cosplay noticed how sad she was. Haniel was a poor angel who wasn't loved by the devil, and there was a permanent sadness in her eyes. She could make you fall in love with her, but she didn't care about you at all. And Marin has those emotions stirring in her for months, because Gojo only thinks of her as a friend, right? Of course not. Gojo's been in love with her since the school festival, but he doesn't think he's worthy to date her, so he's suppressing his feelings. So what we have here is the classic case of 2 people in love not knowing what to do, so they're behaving like idiots. This is compounded by the fact that love makes you stupid, so they're double idiots. Because there is no way that Gojo could ever make a costume like that for someone he didn't love. Marin also could not have nailed Haniel so perfectly if she wasn't in love with Gojo. In fact, you could say that Gojo is her super number one above her other 50. Maybe. She did celebrate Shizuka-tan's birthday after all. But then again, Gojo was the only one she invited to celebrate that with her. Anyway, back to the current chapter. Wakana and Marin start talking about the event and how each of the dolls are different, and the conversation steers to Gojo becoming a Kashirashi, a Hina doll maker. There is no school for it, so Gojo has no need to go to college. He plans on applying to work at a shop when he graduates high school. After all, he wants to be able to make Hina dolls as soon as he can, and show Grandpa while he's still alive. Wait, that came out wrong. Grandpa's not sick or anything, but he is old, so it's just something to keep in mind. Looking to get past this awkward and heavy conversation, Gojo asks Kitagawa what her plans are after high school, which gives Marin the opportunity to finally bring up the recruiter she met at Comiket, but they're interrupted by a phone call from Gojo's cousin. She has a surprise for him. Nonchan has returned. For those who don't remember, Nonchan is the person who traumatized Gojo with her hateful and childish comments. That liking dolls was weird and girly. The woman caused more trauma to Gojo with her disgusting words than anything, except maybe the death of his parents. Think about it. Earlier in the chapter, when Gojo was talking about becoming a Kashirashi, he mentions how much seeing Hina dolls affected his life. Wakana explains that he started to become someone who doesn't dwell on things that can't be changed. The Hina dolls helped to pull him out of his deep depression. Gojo is eternally grateful to his grandfather for helping him. And now, returning to his life, is the girl who once ruined any chance of friendship he had, until Marin crashed into his life, bringing light and color back into his dreary world. Now, to be fair, Nonchan was a little kid. Little kids say the meanest things possible without any malice behind them. Empathy and understanding that your words have power is something an underdeveloped prefrontal lobe isn't capable of. She was probably just mad at him for not coming outside to play with her. But it traumatized Gojo. After all, Hina dolls were what he clung to, his life raft keeping him afloat after drowning in the loss of his parents. Grief is like the ocean. Some days, the emptiness and pain of missing your loved one is like a storm, threatening to drag you down into the black depths. Other times, it's calm, just a couple of waves, but it is always there. And Nonchan's words basically stabbed a hole in Gojo's life raft. So how is Marin going to react? A proper Japanese girl wouldn't get involved. This is family business and a childhood friend of Gojo. She shouldn't get involved. But Marin is a Gyaru, and Gyarus defy expectations. They spit in the face of social norms. Where a traditional Japanese woman is supposed to be quiet and demure, they are loud, boisterous, and opinionated. Hopefully Marin remembers that about herself and helps Gojo. He might not need a life raft anymore, but a lighthouse guiding him to safety would be welcome in this situation. After all, Kitagawa shines so brightly for Gojo. What did you think of the last couple chapters? Where do you think the series is heading? Remember, Valentine's Day is coming up but hasn't hit yet. So what could we expect from our bisque doll and her beloved dressmaker? Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. There are several tiers to choose from. You can pick an anime or manga for me to do a video about, or you can join our monthly manga club. I also want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Danny, Muffins, Marcus, Squishy, Brett, Roxy, Sean, Mark, Borgie, Nazwin, Pedro, Midge, Alix, Alex, Julio, Valeri, Conga, RJ, Aaron, Chris, Robert, Joel, Brock, Michael, Skinwalker, Sidewinder, Austin, and William. You guys are awesome. I post anime or manga videos often, or you can click here to watch additional videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.